There is a moment in life that most people never notice. It is quiet, invisible, but it happens every single day. You are negotiating, not in a big office, not at a business table, not with contracts and suits, but in small, simple moments. When you ask for respect, when you say no, when you choose your time, when you decide your value. And here is the truth. The people who win in life are not always the smartest, they are not always the strongest, they are not always the most talented, they are the best negotiators. Because life gives nothing to those who stay silent. Everything you want, respect, money, opportunities, peace, comes from one skill, your ability to negotiate. Today, you are going to learn how to master it. Lesson 1. Everything is negotiation. Most people believe negotiation is something that only happens in serious situations, like discussing salary, closing business deals, or trying to get a lower price in a market. They imagine negotiation as something formal, something rare, something that only skilled professionals do. But the truth is very different. Negotiation is not an occasional event in your life, it is a daily habit. It is happening around you all the time, often without you even realizing it. In fact, your entire life is shaped by the negotiations you make, accept, or avoid. Real negotiation is not just about money or material things. It is about control. Control over your time, your energy, your emotions, and ultimately, your direction in life. Think about your daily interactions. When someone speaks to you with less respect and you choose to stay silent, you are making a negotiation. In that moment, you are silently agreeing to be treated that way. You are sending a message that your standards are flexible, that your worth is negotiable, and you are losing without even speaking. When someone asks for your time, and deep inside you feel tired or unwilling, but you still say yes just to avoid discomfort, you are negotiating your boundaries. And every time you do that, you give a little piece of your control away. It may seem small in the moment, but over time, these small decisions shape your life in powerful ways. The same happens when you accept less than what you deserve. Whether it is in relationships, work, or personal goals, every time you settle for less, you are negotiating your future. You are telling yourself that this is enough even when it is not. And slowly, without noticing, your expectations become smaller, your confidence becomes weaker, and your life becomes limited by the standards you allowed. This is why understanding negotiation is not just useful, it is necessary. Because if you are not actively choosing your standards, someone else will choose them for you. Understand this deeply. If you don't negotiate your life, someone else will. And they will not do it in your favor. People will take what you allow them to take. Situations will go as far as you let them go. Life does not automatically give you fairness or balance. It responds to what you accept and what you demand. This is why awareness is the first and most powerful step. Before you can improve anything, you must first see it clearly. From today, begin to observe your life with a new perspective. Notice every conversation you have. Notice every request that comes your way. Notice every decision you make, even the smallest ones. Ask yourself, am I choosing this, or am I just reacting? Am I standing for what I want, or am I giving in to what is easy? When you start asking these questions, you begin to wake up. You begin to see that every moment is a negotiation, and in each of those moments you are either moving closer to the life you want or further away from it. The goal is not to become aggressive or controlling. The goal is to become aware and intentional. Because once you see that everything is negotiation, you stop living by accident. You start living by choice. And that is where real power begins. Lesson 2. Your value decides your outcome. Before you open your mouth, before you say a single word in any negotiation, something powerful has already decided your result. And that is your perceived value. Not what you think you deserve deep inside, not your hidden potential, not your intentions, but the value you project to the world. Because people do not respond to what is invisible. They respond to what they can feel, what they can see, and what they can sense from your behavior, your tone, and your presence. This is why two people can ask for the exact same thing and receive completely different outcomes. It is not always about the request. It is about the person making the request. People don't give you what you ask for. They give you what they believe you deserve. And that belief is formed in seconds. If you walk into a conversation with hesitation, if your voice is uncertain, if your body language shows doubt, you are silently telling the other person, "I am not sure about my own worth," and they will respond accordingly. If you act desperate, like you need the outcome more than anything, you are giving away your power. Desperation makes you look replaceable, and when people feel they have the advantage, they will use it. But when you show calm confidence, when your words are clear, your tone is steady, and your presence is grounded, you shift the entire dynamic. Without saying much, you communicate strength, you communicate self-respect, and people naturally treat you differently. This is why negotiation does not truly start with words. It starts with energy. The energy you bring into a conversation speaks louder than anything you say. Think about two people walking into the same situation. One is nervous, avoids eye contact, speaks quickly, and apologizes too much, even before asking for anything. The other walks in calmly, stands straight, speaks clearly, and does not rush. They do not try to impress. They do not try to beg. They simply express what they want with quiet confidence. Now ask yourself, who is more likely to be taken seriously? Who is more likely to receive a positive response? The difference is not intelligence. It is not experience. It is not even communication skill. The difference is self-belief. And this is where most people make their biggest mistake. They try to improve their negotiation skills without improving their self-image. They focus on techniques, words, and strategies, but they ignore the foundation, the way they see themselves. But the truth is simple. The world often mirrors how you see yourself. If you see yourself as someone who deserves respect, you naturally act in ways that demand respect. If you see yourself as someone who is lucky to even be in the room, you will act small, speak softly, and accept less. So before you try to negotiate with others, you must first negotiate with yourself. You must decide what you are worth. Not based on fear, not based on past failures, not based on what others have told you, but based on who you choose to become. Accept your value fully, without apology. Stand on it, even when it feels uncomfortable. Because confidence is not about being loud or aggressive. It is about being certain. Certain of your standards, certain of your limits, certain of what you will accept and what you will not. And remember this, if you do not believe in your own value, no one else will do it for you. The world is constantly testing your standards. It watches how you speak, how you respond, how you carry yourself, and based on that, it decides how to treat you. So raise your standards internally, and your external results will begin to rise as well. Because in every negotiation, your value is not just part of the equation, it is the foundation of the outcome. Lesson 3. Silence is a powerful weapon. Most people believe that the more they talk, the more they can control a conversation. They think that by explaining more, justifying more, and adding more words, they can increase their chances of winning. But in reality, the opposite is often true. In negotiation, talking too much is not a sign of strength. It is often a sign of insecurity. It shows that you are trying too hard to convince, trying too hard to be accepted, and trying too hard to fill the space. Strong negotiators understand something that most people ignore. Power is not in constant talking, but in knowing exactly when to speak and when to remain silent. Silence is uncomfortable for many people. When there is a pause in conversation, they feel the need to fill it immediately. They start explaining, repeating, or even lowering their own standards just to keep the conversation going. But this habit removes their power. Because every extra word can weaken your position. Every unnecessary explanation can make you sound unsure. And every moment you rush to fill silence, you are giving control to the other person. Silence, when used correctly, creates a different kind of pressure. It shifts the emotional weight of the conversation. It makes the other person think, respond, and sometimes even adjust their position. Imagine a simple situation. You clearly state what you want. Instead of stopping, you continue talking. You begin to explain why you deserve it. Then you add more reasons. Then you try to make it sound more acceptable. Slowly, without noticing, you start negotiating against yourself. You lower your confidence. You reduce your clarity. And you give the other person more space to find your weaknesses. But now imagine a different approach. You say what you want, clearly, calmly, and directly. And then you stop. You don't rush. You don't explain more than necessary. You don't try to fill the silence. Now, something powerful happens. The pressure moves from you to the other person. They feel the need to respond. They begin to think. And in that moment, you gain control without saying another word. Silence is not empty. It is full of meaning. It communicates confidence, patience, and self-control. It shows that you are not desperate for approval. It shows that you are comfortable with your position. And most importantly, it shows that you respect your own words enough not to dilute them with unnecessary explanation. People who use silence effectively are often seen as more powerful, more thoughtful, and more confident, not because they say more, but because they say less with greater intention. Learning to use silence requires discipline. It means resisting the urge to explain everything. It means being comfortable with pauses. It means trusting that what you said is enough. This does not mean you should never speak or clarify when needed. It means you should speak with purpose. Every word should have value. Every sentence should move the conversation forward. And when your point is made, you must have the strength to stop. In the end, silence is not about saying nothing. It is about saying only what matters. It is about creating space where your words can carry weight. It is about allowing the other person to feel the impact of what you said. So learn this simple but powerful rule. Say less, mean more. Because in negotiation, the person who controls the silence often controls the outcome. Lesson 4. Never show desperation. Desperation is one of the fastest ways to lose power in any negotiation. It quietly destroys your position before you even realize what is happening. The moment the other person senses that you need the deal more than you want it, you lose your advantage. Because now the balance shifts. Now they are no longer negotiating with you as an equal. They are negotiating with someone who depends on the outcome. And when someone feels that power, they naturally begin to control the situation. They take more time, offer less, and push harder, because they know you are less likely to walk away. Think about a simple, everyday example. Imagine you are buying something from a seller. If the seller notices that you are excited, attached, and already convinced that you must have this item, what usually happens? The price goes up. The flexibility disappears. The negotiation becomes one-sided. But if the seller feels something different, if they sense that you are calm, neutral, and completely willing to leave without buying, everything changes. Suddenly, they begin to persuade you. They lower the price. They offer better terms. Why? Because they now feel the risk of losing you. And in that moment, the power moves back into your hands. This is the core rule of negotiation. The one who can walk away has the power. Not the one who talks more. Not the one who argues more. Not even the one who wants it more. Power belongs to the person who is not emotionally dependent on the outcome. This is why strong negotiators never operate from need. They operate from choice. They may want the deal. They may see value in it. But they never allow themselves to appear as if they cannot live without it. Because the moment you show that you need something, you reduce your freedom. And without freedom, there is no real power. This does not mean you should not care or that you should pretend everything is unimportant. It means you must control how you present your interest. Even if something matters deeply to you, you must remain balanced. Your emotions should not take control of your behavior. Stay calm in your tone. Stay steady in your body language. Stay clear in your words. And most importantly, stay mentally prepared to walk away. Because when you know that you have other options or that you are willing to wait for something better, you naturally become stronger in your position. Sometimes, the strongest move in negotiation is not pushing harder, not speaking louder, and not trying to convince more. It is stepping back. It is creating distance. It is showing that you are not trapped in the situation. This does something powerful. It forces the other person to reconsider. It makes them question whether they might lose the opportunity. And in many cases, it brings them closer to your terms without you needing to fight for it. In the end, negotiation is not about showing how much you want something. It is about showing how much you respect yourself. When you remove desperation, you gain clarity. When you gain clarity, you make better decisions. And when you make better decisions, you create better outcomes. So remember this. Always negotiate from a place of strength, not need. Stay calm, stay balanced, and always keep your power by being ready to walk away. Lesson 5. Ask clearly, not politely. Many people believe that being polite will help them succeed in negotiation. They think that soft words, careful phrases, and indirect requests will make others more willing to agree. But in reality, being overly polite often leads to weak communication. It hides your true intention, reduces your impact, and sends the wrong message. When you speak in a way that sounds unsure, hesitant, or overly careful, people do not hear respect. They hear doubt. And that doubt affects how they respond to you. This is why so many people lose opportunities, not because they asked for too much, but because they asked in a way that made it easy to ignore or reduce their request. Think about the kind of language people often use. Phrases like "I was just wondering," "maybe if it's okay," or "only if you don't mind" may sound polite on the surface. But they carry a deeper message. That message is, "I am not confident about what I am asking." It suggests uncertainty. It suggests that you are already expecting rejection. And when people sense that, they naturally take your request less seriously. They feel less pressure to meet your expectations because you are not even fully standing behind them. In a negotiation, how you say something is just as important as what you say. Weak language creates weak outcomes. This is why clarity is one of the most powerful tools you can develop. Clear communication does not mean being aggressive or disrespectful. It means expressing your thoughts in a direct, simple, and confident way. Instead of hiding behind soft phrases, you speak with intention. You say what you want without unnecessary apology. You define your expectations without confusion. For example, saying "I want this," "this is my expectation," or "this is what works for me," creates a completely different impression. It shows that you have thought about your position. It shows that you respect your own needs. And it invites others to take you seriously. Many people fear that being direct will make them seem rude or difficult. But this is a misunderstanding. There is a clear difference between being rude and being firm. Rudeness ignores the other person's feelings. Firmness respects both sides while still standing strong. You can speak clearly and still be respectful in your tone, your attitude, and your behavior. In fact, most people appreciate clarity more than politeness that hides the truth. Clear communication removes confusion. It saves time. It creates stronger, more honest interactions. When you are unclear, you leave space for misunderstanding. You allow others to interpret your words in ways that may not benefit you. You weaken your own position without even realizing it. But when you are clear, you create direction. You define the conversation. You make it easier for others to understand exactly what you expect. And in doing so, you increase your chances of getting a positive result. In the end, negotiation is not about sounding nice. It is about being effective. You do not need to remove respect from your words, but you must remove hesitation. Speak with purpose, speak with confidence, and trust that your voice deserves to be heard. Because unclear people get unclear results, but clear people create clear outcomes. Lesson 6. Understand the other side. Most people enter a negotiation with a simple mindset: how do I get what I want? They focus completely on their own needs, their own goals, and their own outcome. And while that may seem logical, it often makes negotiation harder, not easier. Because negotiation is not a battle to defeat the other person. It is not about forcing your way through or proving that you are right. True negotiation is about understanding. It is about seeing the situation from both sides and finding a path where agreement becomes natural, not forced. The moment you stop seeing negotiation as a fight and start seeing it as a process of understanding, everything begins to change. Every person you negotiate with has their own world inside them. They have needs they are trying to meet, fears they are trying to avoid, and desires they are trying to fulfill. These things may not always be visible, but they are always present. If you ignore them, you create resistance. But if you understand them, you create connection. And connection is where real influence begins. Because people are not just logical, they are emotional. They make decisions not only based on facts, but on how they feel in the moment. When they feel understood, they become more open, more flexible, and more willing to cooperate. This is where the real power lies. When you take the time to understand what the other person wants, you gain the ability to guide the conversation in a way that benefits both sides. For example, if someone values security, they are not just looking for a result, they are looking for stability and reassurance. In that case, you can frame your proposal in a way that highlights safety and consistency. If someone values respect, they want to feel heard and appreciated. Acknowledging their perspective and showing genuine appreciation can make them far more willing to agree. If someone fears loss, they are naturally cautious. But if you help them see what they might lose by not agreeing, you shift their thinking. Instead of resisting, they begin to reconsider. When you understand these deeper motivations, negotiation stops being a struggle. It becomes a conversation. You are no longer pushing against the other person. You are working with them. This is why the most effective negotiators are not the ones who argue the most. They are the ones who listen the best. They ask questions. They observe reactions. They pay attention not just to words, but to tone, body language, and emotion. Because every small detail gives them more insight into what truly matters to the other side. The biggest shift happens when you change your mindset. Instead of asking, "How do I win?" you begin to ask, "How can we both win?" This does not mean you give up your goals or settle for less. It means you look for solutions where both sides feel satisfied. And when people feel that they are gaining something, not losing something, they agree faster and more willingly. They become partners in the outcome rather than obstacles in your way. In the end, negotiation is not about control. It is about connection. When you understand the other side, you remove resistance and build trust. And when trust is present, agreement becomes much easier. So instead of focusing only on your own voice, learn to listen deeply to others. Because the more you understand, the more influence you gain. And the more influence you have, the easier it becomes to achieve the results you want, while helping others feel valued at the same time. Lesson 7. Control your emotions. One of the biggest mistakes people make in negotiation is allowing their emotions to take control. In difficult situations, emotions like anger, fear, frustration, or anxiety can rise quickly. And when they do, they often take over your thinking without you even realizing it. The moment this happens, you lose more than just your calm, you lose your strategy. Because negotiation is not just about what you say, it is about how clearly you think. And when emotions take control, clear thinking disappears. Instead of making thoughtful decisions, you begin reacting. And reaction, especially emotional reaction, often leads to poor outcomes. Think about what happens when someone says something that triggers you. Maybe they disagree with you, challenge your value, or try to pressure you. In that moment, your natural response might be to defend yourself, raise your voice, or push back quickly. But this reaction is not strength, it is loss of control. When you react emotionally, you are no longer leading the conversation. You are being led by it. The other person can sense this shift, and often they will use it to their advantage. They may push harder, knowing you are unstable, or they may step back and let you weaken your own position through emotional responses. Strong negotiators understand this deeply. They know that the real battle is not with the other person, it is within themselves. They train their minds to stay calm, even when the situation is tense, even when the other person is difficult, even when things are not going their way. They do not allow emotions to control their actions. Instead, they stay grounded. They listen carefully. They think before they speak. And because of this, they maintain control over the direction of the conversation. There is an important difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is fast, automatic, and emotional. It happens without thinking. It is driven by impulse. Response, on the other hand, is slow, intentional, and controlled. It comes from awareness. When you respond, you take a moment to understand the situation before you act. You choose your words carefully. You remain focused on your goal instead of being distracted by temporary emotions. This difference may seem small, but it changes everything. Because in negotiation, a single emotional reaction can damage trust, reduce your credibility, and weaken your position. But a calm, thoughtful response can strengthen your presence and increase your influence. Learning to control your emotions is not something that happens instantly. It is a skill that must be practiced. It begins with awareness. You must notice when your emotions start to rise. You must recognize the signs, your tone changing, your body becoming tense, your thoughts becoming rushed. And in that moment, you must pause. Even a few seconds of silence can make a big difference. Take a breath. Slow down your thinking. Give yourself space to choose your response instead of reacting automatically. The calmer you are, the clearer you think. And the clearer you think, the better your decisions become. When your mind is calm, you can see options that are invisible in emotional states. You can understand the other person better. You can stay focused on your goal instead of being pulled into unnecessary conflict. This is what gives you an advantage. Not force, not aggression, but control. In the end, negotiation is not about overpowering others. It is about mastering yourself. When you can stay calm under pressure, you become difficult to control. And when you are difficult to control, you become powerful. So train yourself to pause, to breathe, and to think before you speak. Because emotional control is not just a skill, it is your greatest strength in any negotiation. Lesson 8. Use time as an advantage. Most people see time as something that is always running out. They feel pressure to act quickly, decide quickly, and finish things as fast as possible. In negotiation, this mindset becomes a weakness. When you rush, you reduce your ability to think clearly. You overlook important details, and you often accept less than what you could have achieved. But strong negotiators understand something different. They do not see time as pressure. They see it as a tool. They know how to use time to their advantage, and this simple shift in thinking changes the entire outcome of a negotiation. Time is not just passing in a negotiation. It is actively shaping the situation. Every moment that goes by affects emotions, expectations, and decisions on both sides. Most people focus only on their own pressure. They think, I need to decide quickly, or I don't want to lose this opportunity. But what they forget is that the other person is also experiencing pressure. They may have deadlines. They may have targets to meet. They may have concerns about losing the deal, and as time moves forward, these pressures often increase. This means that patience is not just about waiting, It is about allowing the situation to evolve until it becomes more favorable for you. Rushing into decisions often leads to mistakes. When you move too fast, you react instead of thinking. You accept terms without fully evaluating them. You agree to things just to end the discomfort of uncertainty. But negotiation is not a race. It is a process. And like any process, it benefits from time and careful consideration. Strong negotiators are comfortable with waiting. They do not feel the need to fill every moment with action. They understand that sometimes doing nothing is more powerful than doing something too quickly. There is also a psychological effect of time that many people overlook. As time passes, people tend to become more flexible. Their initial positions, which may have been strong and firm at the beginning, often soften. They begin to reconsider. They start to see different perspectives. And sometimes, they become more willing to compromise simply because they want resolution. This is why, in many cases, the longer you wait, the better the deal can become. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed time to do its work. Using time as an advantage does not mean delaying everything or avoiding decisions. It means knowing when to slow down and when to move forward. It means not allowing external pressure to control your internal state. When you feel rushed, pause, give yourself space to think. Ask questions, review your options. Let the conversation develop naturally instead of forcing it to end quickly. This calm approach not only helps you make better decisions, but it also sends a message to the other person that you are not desperate, that you are thoughtful, and that you are in control. Patience is often misunderstood as weakness, but in negotiation, it is a powerful strategy. It shows confidence, it shows discipline, and it shows that you are not easily influenced by pressure. When you combine patience with awareness, you begin to see opportunities that others miss. You notice changes in tone, shifts in attitude, and moments where the other side becomes more open. These small signals can guide you toward better outcomes. In the end, time is one of the most valuable tools you have in negotiation. If you rush, you lose its power. But if you learn to use it wisely, you gain an advantage that does not require force or conflict. So slow down when needed, stay patient, and trust the process. Because sometimes, the best move you can make is not to act faster, but to wait longer and act smarter. Lesson 9. Learn to say no. No is one of the simplest words in any language, yet it is one of the hardest for many people to say. In negotiation, this small word carries enormous power, but most people avoid using it because they are afraid. They fear that saying no will damage the relationship, close the opportunity, or make them seem difficult. So instead, they say yes when they should not. They agree to things they are unsure about. They accept conditions that do not truly serve them, and in doing so, they slowly give away their power without even realizing it. What they don't understand is that avoiding no does not protect opportunities, it often weakens them. When you are unable to say no, you become easy to influence. Others begin to sense that you will agree under pressure, that your standards are flexible, and that your boundaries can be pushed. This does not create respect, it reduces it. On the other hand, when you are willing to say no when something does not feel right, you send a completely different message. You show that you have standards. You show that you value yourself enough not to accept just anything. And most importantly, you show that you cannot be controlled easily. This kind of behavior naturally earns respect, even if the other person does not agree with you in that moment. Many people misunderstand the purpose of saying no. They think it is about rejecting others or creating conflict. But in reality, it is about protecting yourself. It is about making sure that what you accept aligns with your values, your goals, and your well-being. Every decision you make shapes your future, and every yes comes with a cost. That cost may be your time, your energy, your focus, or even your peace of mind. When you say yes to something that is not right for you, you are not just gaining something, you are also giving something away. And if you are not careful, you may end up giving away more than you receive. This is why saying no is not a negative act. It is a strategic one. Every time you say no to something that does not align with your needs, you create space for something better. You protect your time so you can invest it where it truly matters. You protect your energy so you can use it on what brings value to your life. You protect your standards so they remain strong and clear. Over time, this builds a life that is not filled with random obligations, but with intentional choices. Of course, saying no does not mean being rude or disrespectful. It is possible to say no in a calm, clear, and respectful way. You do not need to explain too much or apologize excessively. A simple, confident response is enough. What matters is not how many words you use, but the certainty behind them. When your no is clear and grounded, people understand that it is final. And even if they do not like it, they will respect it. In the end, negotiation is not just about getting more. It is about accepting less only when it truly serves you. Learning to say no is a key part of that balance. It protects your value, strengthens your position, and keeps you aligned with what truly matters. So do not be afraid of this word. Use it when necessary. Trust it. Because every strong no brings you closer to a better yes. Lesson 10. Practice daily. Negotiation is often misunderstood as a natural talent that only a few people are born with. Some people believe that certain individuals are just good with words or naturally confident, while others are not. But this idea is not true. Negotiation is not a talent. It is a skill. And like every skill in life, it can be learned, improved, and mastered over time through consistent practice. No one becomes an expert negotiator overnight. It is built step by step, through small actions repeated every day. The real secret is not in one big moment of success, but in the daily habits that slowly shape your thinking, your behavior, and your confidence. You do not need to wait for big opportunities to practice negotiation. In fact, the best place to start is in small, everyday situations. These moments are often overlooked, but they are powerful training grounds. When you speak to a friend, make a request, ask a question, or respond to a situation, you are already practicing negotiation. For example, you can start by asking for better, whether it is a better price, a better explanation, or a better outcome. You can practice speaking more clearly, expressing your thoughts in a direct and simple way instead of using uncertain or weak language. You can begin setting boundaries by politely saying no to things that do not align with your priorities. These small actions may seem insignificant at first, but over time, they build a strong foundation. Another important part of practice is observation. Pay attention to how people respond to you when you speak with confidence versus when you speak with hesitation. Notice how conversations change when you are clear compared to when you are unclear. Every reaction from others is feedback. It tells you what is working and what needs improvement. Instead of ignoring these moments, use them as learning opportunities. Reflect on your conversations. Ask yourself what you did well and what you can do better next time. This habit of awareness will help you grow much faster than simply repeating the same patterns without thinking. As you continue practicing, something powerful begins to happen. What once felt uncomfortable starts to feel natural. What once felt difficult becomes easier. Your words become more confident. Your tone becomes more steady, and your mindset becomes more focused. You start to feel more in control of your interactions. You no longer hesitate as much. You no longer feel afraid to express your needs. And most importantly, you begin to trust yourself more. This confidence is not something you force. It is something that grows naturally through consistent effort. With time, you will notice a major shift in your behavior and mindset. You will no longer be afraid to ask for what you want. You will no longer be afraid to speak your mind. You will no longer be afraid to stand up for yourself. This does not mean you become aggressive or demanding. It means you become clear, confident, and self-assured. You begin to communicate with purpose instead of fear. And this change affects every area of your life, your relationships, your work, your opportunities, and your personal growth. In the end, Practice is the key that unlocks everything. The more you practice, the more natural negotiation becomes. And the more natural it becomes, the more powerful you become. So start today. Use every small moment as an opportunity to improve. Speak a little clearer. Stand a little firmer. Think a little deeper. Because one day, you will look back and realize that these small daily practices have transformed you into someone who is no longer afraid, but someone who knows how to get what they truly deserve. Final message. Become the person who gets what they want. There are two types of people in this world: those who accept life as it is, and those who shape life as they want it to be. The difference is not luck. The difference is courage. The courage to ask. The courage to stand firm. The courage to walk away. Negotiation is not about controlling others. It is about controlling yourself, your words, your emotions, and your value. When you learn to master these, you begin to change the way people see you, and more importantly, the way you see yourself. This is exactly the mindset we always promote in English Achieve, where learning English also means learning confidence, clarity, and the power to express yourself in life. When you grow in this skill, something powerful begins to happen. You don't just improve your communication, you improve your life. You start speaking with clarity instead of fear. You start standing with confidence instead of hesitation. You begin to stay calm even in difficult situations. And most importantly, you stop accepting less than what you deserve. Because you understand one simple truth: the world does not give you what you wish for, it gives you what you negotiate for. If you master this art, slowly, step by step, your entire environment begins to change. People will start listening to you more carefully. They will respect your opinions more deeply. They will agree with you more often. Not because you force them, but because you carry yourself with confidence and clarity. Your presence alone begins to influence outcomes. And over time, you will notice something that many people never experience in their lives. You will feel a true sense of control over your own direction. That is the real power of negotiation. It is not just about winning arguments or getting better deals. It is about becoming the kind of person who understands their worth, speaks with purpose, and lives with intention. So from today, remember this: speak clearly, stand confidently, stay calm, and never accept less than what you deserve. Because when you change the way you negotiate, you change the way you live.